Let's get right into it. Number 10. The bad aim that started Brazil's Iron Rush. In 1844, a Brazilian farmer spotted a snake slithering towards his chickens. He grabbed his gun, took aim, and completely missed everything, hitting a rock instead. The bullet struck the rock, causing sparks that set the dry grass on fire. As the fire burned away the vegetation, something caught his eye. The rocks underneath were gleaming with a metallic shine. This farmer's terrible aim had just revealed one of the largest iron ore deposits in the world. This became known as the Iron Quadrangle, a region that would produce over 5 billion tons of iron ore. That's enough iron to build the Eiffel Tower about 60,000 times. This discovery kicked off Brazil's Industrial Revolution. The snake got away, but the farmer accidentally changed the course of his country's history. Today, Brazil is one of the world's largest iron ore producers, all thanks to one guy's terrible aim. Number 9. The Illegible Handwriting. A soldier in World War I gets handed a note that looks like it was written by a doctor having a seizure. The note is from his commander, meant to tell him where to position artillery. After struggling to read it, he makes out what looks like, "Attach the ridge." So he sets up the guns on the ridge instead of attacking the bridge like the commander actually wanted. Turns out, the enemy had set up a massive ambush at that bridge. If they'd followed the real order, the entire unit would have walked right into a trap. But because of the unreadable handwriting, they accidentally positioned their artillery in the perfect spot to spot and stop the ambush. The enemy was lined up at the bridge, only to get a face full of artillery from the ridge. This mistake turned into a miracle, and the officer who wrote the original order got promoted, not because of his strategic genius, but because his terrible handwriting accidentally saved hundreds of lives. Number 8. The Incorrect Formula. In 1967, a chemistry student mixed the wrong chemicals together, and suddenly there was foam, a lot of foam. Like, enough foam to fill the entire lab. And it just kept growing. This student was trying to create a new type of cleaning solution, but they mixed up two very similar-looking containers. Instead of creating a simple cleaner, they created what we now call aqueous film-forming foam, or AFFF. But this foam is incredibly good at putting out fires. Not just regular fires either. We're talking about massive fuel fires that normal water can't touch, the kind of fires that used to kill hundreds of people in aircraft accidents. Before this accidental discovery, if a plane caught fire, it was basically game over. Water would just spread the burning fuel around, making things worse. But this foam creates a blanket that suffocates the fire and prevents the fuel from reigniting. It's like throwing a giant wet blanket over a campfire, except this blanket works on fires the size of football fields. Today, every major airport in the world has this foam in their fire trucks. Every aircraft carrier uses it, and it all happened because a student failed their chemistry assignment. Number 7. The Forgotten Specimen. It's 2016, and a lab technician in Japan has just finished their shift. But they left a petri dish behind near a plastic recycling facility. When they finally came back to their forgotten sample weeks later, something incredible had happened. The bacteria in the sample had mutated and developed a taste for plastic. Not just any plastic. This bacterial mutation could break down PT plastic, the stuff used in most water bottles. Every minute, we dump about a truckload of plastic into our oceans. This plastic doesn't go away, it just breaks down into smaller and smaller pieces. These pieces end up everywhere, in fish, in birds, and in us. But this accidental mutation, now called Ideonella sakaiensis, can break plastic down into harmless compounds in just 6 weeks. That's compared to the 450 years plastic usually takes to decompose naturally. The discovery was like finding a needle in a haystack, a tiny organism that could one day solve one of the world's biggest pollution problems. Number 6. The Broken Spacetenna. A billion-dollar mission for the Galileo space probe was about to fail. Galileo had a massive problem with its main antenna. The thing was stuck, like a broken umbrella. NASA had tried everything to fix it. Nothing worked. The entire mission to Jupiter, which took over a decade of planning, was on the verge of becoming space junk. But in a moment of desperation, engineers came up with a wild plan. They forced the probe to spin, hoping to jolt the antenna free. It didn't work, but that accidental spin ended up being even better. The wild rotation created a weird pattern of radio signals. Engineers realized they could use this spinning motion and an incredible new data compression technique to send back way more data than they thought possible with the tiny, broken backup antenna. The failed probe went on to discover volcanic activity on Jupiter's moon Io. It found evidence of liquid oceans under Europa's icy surface. and it captured the first direct observation of an asteroid with its own moon, all because a critical part broke at the worst possible time. Number 5. The miscalculated dose that cured the disease. A lab technician in 2008 made what seemed like a career-ending mistake during a cancer drug trial. They accidentally gave patients 1/10 of the intended dose, but something unexpected happened. The patients weren't just doing okay, they were doing better than the group getting the full dose. The lower dose was working better and causing fewer side effects. For years, doctors had been hitting patients with maximum doses, thinking more is better. It's like trying to kill a fly with a sledgehammer when all you needed was a fly swatter. This mistake completely changed how we think about drug dosing. Scientists started looking at other medications too. Turns out, we were overdosing patients on quite a few drugs. This one mistake led to safer, more effective treatments for millions of people. Patients who couldn't handle full doses suddenly had options. The side effects dropped dramatically. Instead of feeling like they'd been hit by a truck, patients could actually function during treatment. What seemed like a career-ending error turned out to be one of the biggest improvements in modern medicine. Number 4. The wrong turn that won a war. Private James Allen got spectacularly lost driving a supply truck in 1944. He was notoriously bad at reading maps. On a foggy morning in northern France, instead of turning right towards Normandy to deliver coffee and donuts to American troops, he turned left. He drove straight into a massive hidden German supply depot. Not just any supply depot. This was the supply depot. The Germans had hidden their entire fuel reserve for the Western Front here. Once Allen realized his mistake and reported back, Allied commanders immediately dispatched bombers. The entire German fuel supply went up in flames. Without fuel, the German tanks became expensive lawn ornaments. Their planes became expensive gliders. The advance was crippled, all because one guy got so lost he accidentally found the enemy's biggest secret. Number 3. The bad batch of glass. It's 1903, and a clumsy French chemist named Edouard Benedictus dropped a glass flask in his lab. But the flask didn't act like normal glass. The flask shattered, but it didn't explode into a million pieces. Instead, it kept its shape, like a spider web made of glass. This particular flask had been storing cellulose nitrate, a liquid plastic that had dried up and left a thin, invisible film on the inside. Benedictus initially ignored it until he read a newspaper article about a car accident where a woman was severely injured by flying glass. Back then, car windshields were just regular glass. In a crash, they'd turn into thousands of flying razors. Suddenly, that weird broken flask became the key to saving lives. Benedictus started experimenting with sandwiching thin layers of plastic between glass sheets. When this new safety glass broke, it would crack but stay together, just like his accidental flask. Today, it's used in every car windshield on the planet. Number 2. The contaminated vaccine that saved millions. Back in 1879, Louis Pasteur was studying chicken cholera, a disease that was devastating farms. He was growing the bacteria in his lab, trying to figure out how to stop chickens from dropping dead. Then Pasteur went on vacation and left the bacteria cultures sitting on his desk, exposed to air. When he came back, he tried to use these old, forgotten bacteria to infect some test chickens. The chickens didn't die. They got a bit sick, but they bounced back like it was nothing. Frustrated, Pasteur was about to throw them out, but instead, he decided to try one more time, injecting the same chickens with a fresh, deadly batch of the bacteria. The chickens didn't even flinch. They were completely immune. Turns out, leaving the bacteria out to get stale had weakened them. It was like creating a training camp for the chickens' immune systems. The weakened bacteria gave their bodies a practice run at fighting the disease without killing them. This accidental discovery of attenuation created a whole new way of making vaccines. Measles, mumps, rubella. Many modern vaccines came from the principle discovered by Pasteur's lucky holiday mistake. Number 1. The malfunction that prevented World War III. On September 26, 1983, a Soviet nuclear early warning system showed 5 incoming American missiles. The officer in charge, Stanislav Petrov, had seconds to react. His orders were clear: report the attack and trigger a full-scale Soviet counterstrike. Starting World War III was literally his job description, but something felt wrong. Petrov thought, 5 missiles is weird. An American first strike would send hundreds, not just 5. His gut feeling told him it was a system malfunction. He had 2 choices: follow protocol and likely end the world, or report it as a false alarm and risk being court-martialed if he was wrong. Petrov made his choice. He told his superiors that the system was malfunctioning. The minutes that followed were the most tense of his life, but no other warnings came. No explosions were detected. He had been right. The system had mistaken the sun's reflection off of high-altitude clouds for the heat signature of missile launches. The world was saved not by a stupid mistake, but because one man had the courage to question a stupid mistake made by a machine. He disobeyed orders, and in doing so, prevented a nuclear holocaust. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.